no. Wait a screen.
Hey, Village Gamers, welcome back to another episode of our gaming podcast. We talk about news, games, and everything in between. Today, unfortunately, Antoine is not with us. As you can imagine, lots of parts of the world are quite cold. And some parts, like here in Taiwan, also have a bit of extreme temperatures. So I was feeling a bit sick earlier, but thankfully I'm okay. So unfortunately, Antoine's not here. That doesn't mean we'll be short on the stories or light on the news. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. I've got 4 stories. Adam's got a bunch of stories. So we'll see what we're able to get through in this hour. And without further ado, let's get started. Adam, what is your first story of today?
All right. So my first story is going to be that we recently got... There we go. We recently got new news on Final Fantasy 14. Sorry, Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail. So we've gotten some updates. They had their Fan Fest, the Tokyo Fan Fest, not that long ago. One of the biggest things that they added was the second class. So earlier we knew that one of the classes was going to be the Viper. They are a dual sword wielding class, but now we got the Pictomancer, which a lot of people were guessing. A lot of people were calling it the Green Mage because that is the official designation of one of the characters' realm from Final Fantasy VI. She is a Pictomancer. She was called a Green Mage, so a lot of people were expecting it to be called Green Mage, but no, it's going to be called a Pictomancer. You harness the power of painting. So they have a video. You can go ahead and watch it online. What it does is mostly she just carries a big brush and splashes paint everywhere, but occasionally you can paint a monster and that monster will use its attack. So for example, they show a Moogle that she paints a Moogle. The Moogle pops out and shoots this star beam or whatever. So there's that. We also are getting the final race for the game. It's going to be the female Hrothgar. The Hrothgar are a race of large cat people. They have 2 cat people races. One of them's kind of a small, kind of your stereotypical anime cat girl species, mostly human with cat ears and a tail. These people are more of, big. They have a cat head and they're covered in fur. So we had a male Hrothgar, and now we're getting the female Hrothgar. And supposedly that's going to be the last race they're going to add because, as I said, it actually gets really difficult the more races you add because depending on the race's size and body shape, you have to basically recreate all the armor for that species as well, which is a pain not only because now you have to, instead of, if I created a set of armor, I have to create a set for 5 species. Now I have to create a set for, say, 9 species or 7 species or however, but you have to go back and reformat all the armor that you've had up to this point in the game. So every time they add a new race, it's not even just that, going forward, they have to consider this, but they have to go back and redo everything from the beginning. And so because of that, they said they're probably just not going to be adding any more races simply for that reason. We are also getting the Beastmaster limited job. The limited job in Final Fantasy 14 is similar to the Blue Mage. That's another limited job. So we'll have 2 now. Limited jobs, basically, they don't go up to the max level. So the new max level, I believe, is 90. It will not go up to 90. It'll probably go up to maybe 50, 60, maybe 70, somewhere around there. And limited jobs are also limited in the fact that they cannot enter dungeons or do content normally in the same way that other classes can because they're not designed to work in that way the same way other classes work. So, for example, with the Blue Mage, you go out, you fight a monster. If a monster uses a certain spell, then you can learn that spell from the monster. And the reason that they are limited is because they just become far too powerful. because they can, if you want to use tanky spells, you can use tanky. They have access to way more spells than any other class, or way more abilities than any other class. So, for example, if you were doing the new Beastmaster, you could basically cover any class. You could get a healing pet, you could get a tanking pet, you could get a DPS pet or a stealth pet or whatever kind of pet you want. And because of that, it just makes it makes certain content way too easy, because you're way more powerful. You have way more options than a regular class would have. But we are getting it as a limited job. So if you want to be Beastmaster, that's great. And we also got that the Xbox open beta will start on February 21st. Hopefully, it might be pushed back a couple days or pushed up a couple days. But it looks like we're getting it on February 21st, which is a little bit later than they had originally planned for. They had planned for January this year. But yeah, so if you're on Xbox and you want to play Final Fantasy 14, open beta on February 21st and knock yourself out. Pretty sure it's free.
That's very cool. I mean, I remember you, I feel like on the podcast you called the Pictomancer a few episodes ago or earlier last year.
A lot of people were suspecting it's going to be a Pictomancer, yeah.
Yeah, and then you explained to me what a Pictomancer was. Like, okay, nice. That sounds cool.
It's an art mage.
It's an art mage. Yeah, I love the name Pictomancer. I remember when we started doing long form videos, and I remember I had to Google a picture of a Pictomancer, and I got to see some old versions of a Pictomancer. So that sounds interesting. And so when is this coming out?
Summer 2024. They're not quite sure. We don't have an exact date yet. So, but summer 2024. And we have they looked at some new areas as well. So. Very exciting. Okay. And I am way behind, so I'm going to have to catch up. But thankfully, the only thing I have between then and now that I absolutely must do is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Dragon's Dogma. So I think I can knock out those two before summer. So I think I should be fine.
You just answered my question. I was Adam and I before the show were talking about gaming schedules and stuff, and I just realized not really for the first time, but just logically I thought about it. I've planned out my first 6, maybe 9 months of gaming this year, and anything else that comes out just has to go to the bottom of the list. And so I guess Adam has the same thing in his mind where hopefully he'll get to Final Fantasy in time for summer.
I'm sure I can probably get to this one in time. I do still have stuff from my backlog from last year. I still haven't done the Kati DLC for Akiba's Trip, and I still haven't done Forspoken. I have Forspoken now. I didn't. I wanted to play it when it released. I didn't, and then it went on sale, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna pick this up, and haven't gotten around to it, but we'll see. Hopefully, I'll have time to get to that, and then a whole bunch of other stuff. So. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes.
And with that, let's move on to my first story, which is Project Renee, which a bunch of you were Googling or researching or looking what is Project Renee. And if you're not in the know like me, I'm pretty sure Adam knows what Project Renee is because he's a far bigger fan of this genre than I am. I've only recently gotten into cozy, relaxing games. Of course, if you're fans of the podcast, I would have talked about Stardew Valley a bunch of times, maybe too many times for some people. But yeah, Project Renee is the code name for The Sims 5, which is, again, total news to me. So this is an older story from December 15th of last year, but Games Radar and the journalist Sam Loveridge covers everything we know about the future and the current, what does The Sims 5 actually look like, right? And what do we know so far? So again, no concrete release date, but again, the director or the producers of The Sims 5 came and said, yes, there will be early access. Yes, again, the game will be free to play. Now, this of course, will probably leave a bad taste in many people's mouths because, of course, EA has not had the best track record when it comes to free to play. Last year, with a bunch of the sport games, people were spending thousands of dollars on card packs for Madden and NBA. And a bunch of other games. And so that's definitely something to keep into account. Though, again, I would say most middle-aged gamers, right? I mean, playing free-to-play stuff or playing things like that, right? If you're playing an hour a day, like Adam and I were talking about this, right? Again, you're probably not likely to crush through all this content, but you're playing 3 hours, 4 hours a day for a free-to-play game. You're going to hit that paywall or timer wall or something where you have to put real money into the game. So that's definitely something to keep into account. And yeah, they talked about a bunch of cool gameplay features with Project Renee. One feature was that they talked about was with a social play experience where players can design an apartment together. Now, this is an interesting feature. Like Stardew Valley does this, where you can do like a farm together with your wife or your partner or whoever. And I've heard that it works quite well, like when you're playing in the same room or you're playing online and you're chatting on Discord. So that's something to take into account. But I think this is one of those features where if you don't have anyone to play online, or you work an odd time, like Adam works odd times, right? Like he works night times in Taiwan, where Adam's Taiwanese friends are off work, and like he has no one to play with at that time unless they're in America. And even then in America, it's evening Taiwan time where he's off work, but in America, it's morning time where his friends are working at the moment. So a lot of this sharing experience sounds really cool, but for like middle-aged gamers, yeah, it might be hard to find somebody to do this, have this sharing experience with. They talk about the Sims build and buy mode, right? So it says, so far Maxis has outlined just a few elements of what the Sims 5 or Project Renee will eventually be. The first playtest of the game has now been completed with a small number of players and included furniture customization, which also took up the majority of the initial Behind the Sims summit. The first look showcased how creative tools for build mode will evolve, with players able to pick the color and patterns of items, like a more nuanced version of the Sims 3 create a style, but also the shape of objects. The examples shown were a bed where you could choose a single or a double for a single item, and then tweak things like the shape and style of elements like the headboard and footboard. This sounds really cool, but probably not for me. There's so I'll run through the rest of these really quickly. It says Sims 5 create a sim mode, hair color customization exploration, Sims 5 live mode, and that is it. So it sounds like there's a bunch of new interesting things. Maybe they're not exactly innovations anymore in the space, but sounds interesting and definitely something to keep your eye out on. Don't forget to check out Adam's video covering Life by You and everything that they've done in 2023.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned with the because there's a couple things. I mean, they've said that it's going to exist alongside Sims 4, so it doesn't look like it's meant to be a replacement in the sense that, you know, Sims 4 was a replacement for Sims 3 and Sims 3 was a replacement for Sims 2. It looks like this is something that's going to be coexisting with Sims 4, and that is a little concerning as to what they plan to do with it. So it looks like it might even be like a different kind of model of gameplay. But yeah, I like the customization options. I think that's really cool, especially with things like color wheels and stuff like that. Because that's one thing that always drives me nuts in The Sims is, you know, if I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have a couch, I'm gonna have a sofa, and I find this sofa, and then I find like the love seat, right? And there's like, oh, this is one of us is kind of like a deep red, and one's kind of a faded red, and it's like, I just want everything to, you know, yeah, you're limited with the color options they give you. Sometimes things don't even have color options. So a color wheel allows you to match that really easily, especially if you have like a color wheel that allows you to apply different patterns to things. Yeah, and then I saw like they were saying like, okay, you know, if you put a sofa down, you have the option of, do you want 3 separate cushions or do you want it to be one long cushion? So I really think that's really, really cool. But yeah, and then looking at the videos of it, they have like a lot of like really kind of nitty gritty stuff. Like, for example, they showed the sofa and then they had the throw pillows, and you could kind of adjust where the throw pillows are on the sofa, and you could adjust the angles that they're at. And so it's like, okay, in that sense, it looks like it's supposed to be really good for like modeling things. But yeah, I don't know what kind of limitations that's going to have, because when you allow that kind of freedom, it can really complicate things like animations. You know, like for instance, if somebody wants to sit on a sofa, then if you can place a pillow anywhere on the sofa, you know, like the AI has to compensate for that, or you're going to have a lot of clipping if the pillow is positioned in such a way that the person's sitting here, but that's where the pillow is. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. I'll have my eye on it. But yeah, the free to play and the fact that you can play it on your PC and then move over to your phone and continue playing it on your phone, and all those things together makes me kind of worried about how much of the experience is going to feel the same and how much of the experience is going to be something completely different. So yeah. which could still be exciting, but at the same time, when you want Sims 5 and you're getting a new experience, it's kind of like, okay, that's cool, but it's not what I was looking for.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, you mentioned a bunch of things I didn't know as well. Like, but I think that's something we can like look forward to is the idea of crossplay between your handheld, your mobile, your PC, your console and stuff. I think lots of people want that. I wouldn't say lots. I would say definitely a niche of players want it. So, but I think that's going to be another topic for another day. Tell us about your story number 2.
So for story number 2, I'm going to be talking about Horizon Forbidden West is coming to PC finally, which in my opinion is terrible because I think it's great that it's coming to PC, but I think that Ghost of Tsushima should be coming to PC first. So and my point, and so I'm not disappointed by the fact that this is coming to PC. I'm very happy that this is coming to PC, but it does make me very sad that it's coming to PC and Ghost of Tsushima is not, because that is the game that everyone needs to play. But it is coming to PC. It is coming to the Epic Game Store. Guerrilla Games is not going to be handling this port, so they handled the port on the original Horizon Zero Dawn, and there were some development issues. Recently, PlayStation other games like was it The Last of Us on PC was having issues. So this time they're going to be getting Nixxes, Nixxes. They will be handling the port, and they've apparently been successful with some ports in the past. So they'll be doing that, which is good news because A, it means that you have somebody who's a little more experienced with doing these PC ports doing it, and B, it means that Guerrilla Games is free to work on whatever else they are working on, so they don't need to stop everything to work on this port. So that's good news for everyone. It's also going to be supporting DLSS 3, so that's exciting because, yeah, if you have a PC that can handle that, then, yeah, it's going to run real smooth and look real good. So if you have not played Horizon Forbidden West yet, or if you're like Antoine and you played it and you didn't get to play the DLC, this is a great opportunity to finally get in on it. And, yeah, I would highly recommend it. I will admit I was a bit iffy on the story, but the gameplay was solid and a lot of fun, so, yeah.
I'll add as well that check out Adam's streams of the game because it was fun to watch. Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought the port was really good, though I did get it I think a year or a year and a half after it came out on PC, and I played it and it ran absolutely smoothly. It looked beautiful on PC. So I'm sure the next version, because Sony does have that really high standard for quality. I don't think I've seen a bad port. I did get the Uncharted trilogy on PC as well, which also ran amazingly. And that was a really tough game for my PC when I was running my 3070 Ti as well. So this sounds exciting. I don't think I would get it just because I fell off the first one and not because it was a bad game. It's one of those things where I have a list of games now that I'm going to play at some point, and Horizon Zero Dawn is on there. It is fairly low down the list, just because I wasn't enjoying the action and so forth. But yeah, no, I think if I do finish Zero Dawn, and I have a feeling I'll finally play it at some point, and then I'll be like, oh my god, I should really finish this the first time, and then I'll get Forbidden West at some point as well. So this is great news. I think Sony's ports are always really amazing. I tried a bit of Spider-Man as well. That was really cool and really fun, but I just wasn't feeling it at the time. So great news. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, and then let's move on to my second story, which is Netflix considering introducing in-app purchases and ads to its games platform. So if you missed this story, right, or you're a new Netflix person, or maybe you might not have this available, or maybe you just like Netflix on your TV all the time, right? So Netflix offers games on your mobile. So if you're logging into Netflix on your cell phone or on your iPad or on your Samsung tablet, you can play games like GTA Trilogy, you can play Dead Cells, and go back and check out our earlier episode about this. This story basically highlights that Netflix, they've been trying to get into the streaming games, gig. Unfortunately, it isn't working. And I mean, because think about the primary customer of Netflix. You open it up, you watch TV, that's it, right? Nobody's opening up Netflix, to sort of say, I want to play games, right? Also, like Antoine may have had a really good argument. It's like, yeah, I didn't know there was games available. And for most people, right, again, going back to the TV thing, you would know there were games unless you logged into Netflix on your phone. And lots of people don't, right? Like I watch Netflix on my phone maybe once or twice a week at the most, and then I get to see the games, right? So they're considering doing games and ads. So in some countries, right, you have that lower tier with ads. And so this kind of makes sense as well. This could be like the all-inclusive option where if you're not making a lot of money or you're a middle to low-class family, like, okay, I pay for Netflix. It is $3.99 or $4.99 in the States with ads. And now I get games as well. And I get to, and you get like ads in between your games. This could be something like, hey, kids, yeah, you get to play games on your TV, right? And that's also something Netflix is considering doing, is to offer games on the TV. At the moment, you're not able to do that, again, because there is no controller for that, right? It's just on your phone. So I think if Netflix does do this, there is definitely a market for it. It'll be interesting to see how well it works out. I think it could work out, but again, they still need to expand that library because you are competing with Xbox Live Game Pass, which Antoine loves, and I think is a great deal as well. We'll see how it goes. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see. Or aren't they talking about doing adding advertising back into the regular thing though too? People were irritated about that.
Yeah. Just like Amazon did, I guess 2 weeks ago, where they're like, yeah, by the way, you're not going to see ads on Amazon Live, and if you don't want ads, you have to pay another $2-3 more. So Netflix has already. I don't think they've not done it this side of the world because, again, we are the stronger market recently. But yeah, that they've definitely done that. And again, it's again because you look at Netflix shares, like literally yesterday, breaking news on the S&P 500. There were a bunch of stocks. Netflix, PayPal were the ones that were just like going up like crazy yesterday. And that's because Netflix is really like say, hey, no more password sharing. Even in Taiwan, my friend Hans stopped paying for Netflix because he got the message like, by the way, if you want your parents in Kaohsiung, Hans now lives in Hsinchu, to pay to watch your Netflix, you have to pay an extra 100 Taiwanese dollars a month. So like the same like the States, $3. And he was like, nope, I'm not doing that. See you later. So there's definitely people who are going to stop, but there are definitely people who are like, yeah, I'll pay for this because I don't want to watch ads, or I'll pay for this because I want an all-inclusive solution without having to pay for a console or a PC.
Yeah, I'm still kind of iffy on the whole Netflix gaming thing for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, you need to have a solid connection for streaming, and I don't always have that. You know, my internet's sometimes good and sometimes bad. But not only that, but I think for me, probably one of the biggest things that I'm concerned about is if I'm playing on PC or I'm playing on a console or I'm playing on my phone, I'm going to have different peripherals at my disposal, and to create a game that's going to cater to any kind of setup, I think is to the detriment of the game. You know, like if a game is designed to be able to work on a phone screen, you're going to have limitations that, you know, you're not going to have with a controller. If you're using a controller, you're going to have limitations that you're not going to have with a keyboard. If you're using a keyboard, you're going to have limitations that you're not going to have with a controller or a touch screen. And so I worry about, like, you know, where games kind of become, instead of being like, hey, let's go for the best experience, it's, hey, let's go for the broadest experience. And that's going to be able to function on anything. I mean, some games are not going to have too big of a problem. If you're playing a game like Mario, you need like a jump button and maybe whatever button you use to shoot fireballs or grab turtle shells. So it shouldn't be that hard. Games like Genshin Impact and that sort of thing are designed from the get-go to work on mobile. So they have, like, you know, even if you look at the game when you're playing on a console, it still has that display in the lower left-hand corner where where the phone buttons would be. They get rid of some of the other buttons and stuff, but you know, it's all kind of, it looks very similar. But I think but again, the game is fairly simple, which is fine. But you are going to be limited in mechanics. You know, you're probably not going to be able to run a game like Dragon's Dogma very easily on your phone because, you know, you have to have climbing mechanics and you have to have like designated buttons for when do you grab and when do you let go and when do you jump and how do you access your magic. And I think on a controller, you can map that pretty well. And on a keyboard, you can map that really well, right? Like that was one of the concerns when Final Fantasy 14 first came out on console where people were saying like, how are you going to play an MMO on a controller? How is that even going to work? Because people were used to World of Warcraft where you can map all your spells to the number buttons at the top of your keyboard, right? So I have to hit 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 10 buttons. And then I can tab, and then I can get to my second set of 10 buttons. That's 20 buttons. How am I going to access 20 buttons on a controller? And they found a way to do it. But I mean, I think there's always going to be like, if you were to say wanted to play that game on your phone, how do you access 20 buttons on your phone? I mean, do you just have like tiles like across the top and you just have to press them? So that's my biggest concern right there is just kind of the homogenization of the peripheral. So, yeah.
I think that's a very valid concern and definitely something that I think will make a good video in itself for the next week. All right, sir. Story number 3.
All right. So for story number 3, I'm going to be talking about there's my number 3. Twitter, or not Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it Twitter. People are calling it Twitter live stream. So lately they came out and Elon Musk was talking about how Twitter is going to be releasing their live stream function, which they've done a couple times, but they've kind of been turning it on and off, and how it's going to compete with Twitch. So he really wants it to compete with Twitch. And so basically there are 2 models currently for monetization. The first model is that any kind of advertising done in the comments, you'll be getting all the not income, but the money from that. You'll be getting the monetization from any kind of advertising done in your comments. So if somebody comes in and does that, you get that. But also he was considering doing a subscription model. And basically what could happen is this could be similar to, say, like I know podcasts, some of the podcasts that I listen to will do like Patreon subscription model, like, and you can say, okay, if you pay this much, you get this tier of content. And if you pay this much, you get this tier of content and that sort of thing. So, you can kind of choose how much you want each tier to cost, and then people, you can ask people to pay that. So in this case, what you would do is you're like, hey, if you want to subscribe to my content, then this is the subscription, and then you can choose whatever you want. You could say I want $1 a month, or I want $10 a month, or I want I don't know, maybe you could go down as low as 20 cents a month. I don't know what the limitations are there. But yeah, that's the idea, is that you could say, if you want to set up a channel and you want to do some kind of subscription model, then you could set that up. You could choose your price, and then fans can come along and subscribe. So if you are looking to stream outside of Twitch or Kick or Facebook or YouTube, which is where we do, except for Kick, then yeah, this is another option that you can possibly do. Oh, and chat is working now. Noble Cooper says, if it can handle reading 50 comments in one chat, that'll work. Many want a better chat. If it can handle reading, he just repeated it for some strange reason. I don't know why my chat's being weird today, but yeah. So we'll see how that goes, but it's an option, and a lot of people said they were going to leave, and a lot of people didn't. So we'll see how that goes.
I mean, that's really interesting. One of the stories, my backup story for today is actually Twitch is laying off another 350 employees, right? So, I mean, that tells you, that comes off the back of Unity yesterday announcing they're laying off a bunch of people, right? So it's interesting. I think the streaming model it's not going to go away. And I think Twitter is definitely going to become a platform where, if you are of the right-wing persuasion, that's the place you're going to go to, right? Like Rumble is another platform that is under investigation by the SEC, and they're probably going to get shut down. But X is not going to go away. The one thing I did listen to at the end of 2023 was a lot of journalists and tech people like, yep, the prediction for 2024 is that Elon Musk will no longer have control over X. X is never going to go away, unfortunately. For me anyway, I don't like it anymore. But what will happen is that he'll step away. He won't be able to make any decisions anymore, but he will still be an owner of X. And that's the prediction for this year. I think that's going to come true. I've left. Middle Age Gaming has left X. We're now on Threads. So come check us out there. Adam is still on X because I know he enjoys it a fair bit. And I do enjoy looking at it. I can't stand the Chinese propaganda that's on X, especially I just hated looking at it all the time. But yeah, no, I think it's a very bold move, and I think there's definitely going to be an audience for it from X, from the current audience of X, the libertarians, the right wing people who like, yes, this is going to be great for streaming. That being said, right, like it is going to be really, really hard to monetize. Lots of advertisers are no longer using X, right? So, I mean, if you want to offer people money or monetization or percentage of the earnings, right, like. I mean, Twitch was 70-30, unless you're like a really, really rich creator, right? I mean, what is X going to offer, right? 70-30 of this ad from this weird company. Like, I know a lot of the sort of left-leaning tech journalists are like, yeah, they're getting ads for Cheech and Chong gummies and stuff in the States, I guess, if you live in America. And like weird ads that like you would not, like there's no more Disney ads. Of course, Disney doesn't advertise in X anymore. So it's definitely doable, and I think it's interesting. But I think the streaming game is changing a lot. Twitch is finding it a bit of a struggle. Kick is used to be really, really hot, but they haven't been in the news for a while. But I think streaming is the future. Lots of people have said it. I mean, but then again, right? Like I posted this to Adam, the very famous marketing agency Neil Patel. They analyzed 6,300,000 social posts from 2023. And the thing that they found that resonates the most, that gets you the most engagement in 2023, drumroll, is short form content, right? And we know because like you guys loved Adam's short. It is the most viewed video we've ever had on our channel, on Instagram, on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure on Facebook as well. And I understand why, as much as Adam and Antoine are not big fans of short form content, I know it's the future of everything. Unfortunately, which I know my older brother, like every smart person in my life that I know hates short form content. I'm like an average intelligence person, so it just really resonates with me. So it's that being said, I think there's going to be an audience, but I think it's not going to be a moneymaker for Twitch. I would even say it'll be like a 1 or 2% margin line in terms of earning that money.
Yeah, it says here, he explained that all advertising revenue from replies to a stream would be exclusive to the content creator. So they would get all the revenue for replies to a stream. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what that means. I mean, most of the time, if I reply to somebody, I don't think that's generating too much money, but I don't know.
I mean, you look at like rates, right? Like we've talked about this on the show. Like for our long form video, once we do get monetized, right, that would be $2.52 per video. For example, Adam's latest video, right, will probably hit 2,000 views. We would make $4 off that video, right, this month. And then in perpetuity per 1,000 videos, $2.52 thereafter, right? Facebook, for our monetization on Facebook, we get like 0.001 cent per view of a video, like something really ridiculous like that, right? For our short content views there. And short content views are really, really bad. So they're like, that's not the way you're going to make money as a content creator. But yeah, it's interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of the mentality that Elon Musk doesn't need to make money. He makes plenty of money, so maybe he's gonna take the loss and be like, "Hey, let's just let the content creators get a huge sum of it, and then get people to switch over. And then once they're switch over, then we're gonna pull the rug out from under them and change the policy."
That's entirely possible. But I mean, there are loads of brands who'll be like, look at Substack, right? That was a big thing in the last 2 weeks. Substack is a major newsletter provider for some of the biggest newsletters in the world. Oh God, your screen just flashed green for me for some reason. No. But yeah, I mean, like they had, they were like there were a bunch of like right-wing, white nationalist groups on Substack, and they were making money off it. People were like, no, we're not going to do this. Well, I'd say people are like, we don't want this on your platform. Please get rid of it. Substack said, no, we stand for free speech. We don't censor. Elon Musk, of course, is along the same lines. But then again, you come to advertisers like, yeah, if you're doing this, well, I'm taking my money off the platform. a bunch of major newsletters like, yeah, we're not doing this, right? And a guy I was listening to on the weekend, like, he was saying, okay, if Substack, there's a feature for where I'm going to take my newsletter off Substack and move it to somewhere else. And I think X has this problem. Substack is going to have this problem. And it's you can have all the right-wing people you do in the world, but again, all these companies have a legal responsibility to be inclusive, to be accepting. And those are the biggest companies, Apple, Disney, Microsoft, right? And if they're not on your platform advertising, yeah, you're not going to make a huge amount of money. All right, my third story is something I watched on a channel. It's a YouTube channel called Splattercat Gaming. It was actually something I always, like, if I ever got into streaming full time, I always wanted to do that, was to try a different game every single day. And this guy, that's what he does. He plays a different game every single day, usually indie games, not really AAA games. This game is currently on Kickstarter with about 17 hours to go. It's called Trash Goblin. So this is a game very much similar to like those Work as a Life games, which is like My Time at Sandrock, like Power Wash Simulator or X Simulator, right? But basically you're in an RPG universe and you're working for some guy, and you sort of like recover objects, and you're like, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to clean them or chisel them away, and you sort of like get this object, like, okay, sell it and you make money, right? And then it's sort of that line of like upgrading your tools and earning more money and doing better and maybe opening up a new store. So as always with Kickstarter games, right, be careful. We're not getting paid to do this. You have to decide, like, is this worth it? And you guys know, I've backed 3-4 Kickstarter games that never came to fruition and my money is gone. So please be careful. But that being said, like, this looks really, really fun. This is in pounds. So if you are backing the basic tier, you're paying $26 or £20. And it looks like a really fun game. Again, this is probably the first game where it's set in a medieval RPG sort of fantasy-like setting. And that's it. And I've already backed it as usual. This will come out in July 2025. Again, I haven't met a Kickstarter game that's actually come out on time, with the exception of a few Switch games. So please keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as well.
Yeah, so what exactly are you doing? You're just kind of cleaning objects and then reselling them?
That's exactly all it is. So like really simple, again, really relaxing. I watched this guy and played against Splattercat, and he was playing it on his YouTube video. And that's all he did. It was like chiseling away, and you have to chisel the right portion away so it doesn't break. And then you get better tools, and you're working for a guy initially, right, as a goblin, because you're like a goblin working for this guy, and you get paid. And then you go and you get better tools and you get better stuff. It's that sort of continuous loop of upgrade, earn more money, upgrade again, earn more money, and then you get to the end game. Oh, I'm now a rich person, and the game's over.
Okay. So kind of like
that's all it is.
Okay. It's kind of like a power wash simulator kind of thing, where it's just like, just go and clean some stuff and no pressure, take your time, like that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Pun intended on no pressure. But yeah, that's all it is, right? And there are a bunch of games like this. This is the first game. The art is also really good. I like it. Check out the Kickstarter page and support the developer. Again, another small group of guys making this game, or girls, whoever they are. And let us know what you think. This is something I'm looking forward to next year, which is only going to add to the number of games that I need to play in a year. All right, we are speeding through. Story number 4 for you, Adam?
Yeah, so I got some backup stuff. So Apex Legends, if you are a fan of Apex Legends and you are a fan of Final Fantasy VII, then you're going to be super excited, because starting today, or no, I guess actually 2 days ago, for the next 3 weeks, they are doing a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Apex Legends crossover. And this is kind of interesting because they're changing the main game mode. So now what you can do is you can play through and you can break certain things. I believe they call them Catics. They're little cactuars, which are the little cactus things. They'll drop materia, which is basically solidified magic crystals, and you can use those as pop-ups on your guns, and they're going to do different things, like they're going to be able to block damage, or they're going to be able to, you add lightning to your attacks or fire or whatever, so you can add elemental sort of stuff. So they got all that. They also are adding a Buster Sword, which is Cloud's weapon, into the game. So if you have the Buster Sword, you can use it to block. You can use it to block attacks, similar to what Cloud does in Final Fantasy VII. Uses it as a giant shield because it's basically the size of a shield. So you can use it to block gunfire. You can use it to attack people. And if you get all the stuff for, it's going to be available in the loot boxes for this event. So it's an heirloom weapon. It's also interesting because this is going to be the first heirloom weapon that can be equipped by any character in the game. So everybody can equip this. So even when the event is over, you can still keep this weapon, but it's going to be only for, but you still keep this weapon. You can use it on anybody. But because it is a limited time heirloom weapon, which means that if you do not get it in this event, you will never be able to get it again later. So you have to get it in this event. So you have to be there. Also, but one thing that has a lot of people concerned is that they are also offering a Sephiroth themed death box, which means if you die, the box that your body is going to be stored in is Sephiroth themed. Just basically got this one big black wing on it. So the one winged angel thing. But the problem is to get that, you have to unlock all the content for this event. And normally I think there's 24. This time there's 36. So each piece of content, you get it from a loot box. Each loot box costs about $10. So if you want to get this thing, you basically have to spend $360 on the game just to get this one death box. And that has a lot of people kind of irritated that it's kind of like, oh my God, yeah, again, like we were talking about before, you get a game that's free, it's not free. And in fact, a lot of times if you want, they'll come out with this tempting content that if you want that content, you're actually going to end up spending more on this game than you would if it was a traditional, pay model. So yeah. And I mean, I guess there's the argument that these games are going to last you a lot longer than a typical game would last you, right? If I'm playing, say, something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I might get 100 hours out of it, So they say to 100%, it should hopefully take around 100 hours to complete. Whereas something like Apex, you're going to be playing for years and years and years and years. Last year alone, it was my third most played game. Stop being poor, according to Noble Cooper here. It was my third most played game of 2023 after Persona 5. And what was the second one? Oh, Neo 2. I think I had 200 and something hours in Apex. So, but yeah, so it'll last you quite a while. But yeah, so really exciting for me. I do think, if I remember correctly, Apex has 3 forms of currency. I don't remember what they're called. You have Apex coins, that's the real money one, and then you have a red crafting material, you have blue crafting materials, I think, or red crafting materials. I think you can spend the blue currency on some of these things. So if you have some of that stacked up, I think you can buy some of the content that way, and then that should help alleviate, you won't have to pay for everything. So you wouldn't have to pay the full $360. If you could unlock, say, half of it, you'd only have to pay $180. So but yeah, these things are getting expensive. Jeez.
Are you going to be buying loot boxes for this ever?
I'm definitely going to be unlocking some of the content. One of the characters, Crypto, has a Cloud Strife skin, and Crypto is my main in Apex, so it's like, oh, come on, there's no way I can't get this. But looking at some of the other ones, I mean, what was it? Newcastle is Barrett. With the what's her name, Watson with her Moogle skin, and Valkyrie with the Yuffie skin. I'm definitely gonna be getting a few of them. So I'll be probably purchasing those with the blue thing. I think I definitely have enough for that. But I might have to pop in some money for loot boxes because I do kind of want that Buster Sword. Ooh. So I might have to take Noble Cooper's advice here and stop being poor for a second and become a whale, for much to my chagrin. So, but what are you gonna do?
I have a side question, right? Like, what's the Apex numbers been like? I mean, since you've been playing the last year or so. Like, I was trying to look it up while you were talking because It looks like average Twitch viewership is about 38, 39,000. I believe Valorant is the current like popular, this kind of game more popular than Overwatch, I believe, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, how do you feel about Apex these days?
A lot of my students have switched from Apex to Valorant. So yeah, but I think it's still doing pretty well. I hear more about Apex than I do about Overwatch, but to be fair, I play Apex and I don't play Overwatch, so I'm more likely to be seeing that content because I'm in that space. But yeah, I think it's doing fine. I think it's doing pretty well. They recently, for this last season, released the new character, and yeah, doing fairly well. And they're going to be overhauling one of the other characters soon, so...
I mean, this sort of ties into my fourth story, which is I feel like a lot of companies, including gaming companies, are doing some sort of like consolidation where like, okay, what's making us money? And if it's not making us money, we're going to stop it, right? Like Hearthstone, which I don't play anymore, but I saw this really massive news, just like, yes, thank God I don't play anymore. They killed a mode that I really, really loved. And again, you know, Microsoft bought Blizzard Activision, and they're like, okay, this mode is gone. So all the skins and cards you might have paid are gone, right? And EA makes Apex Legends, right?
It's made by Epic, isn't it? Oh no, it's who does Titanfall? Is it Respawn?
And Respawn is owned by EA.
Okay, then yeah.
Okay, so yeah. This just makes me worry just because I remember Apex being, again, in terms of Twitch viewership, about 80,000 like viewers or so, like maybe a year ago. And I think like as a game, there's not been like serious innovation, not just Apex, but like Valorant, like Overwatch 2 has been a disappointment, right? So this makes me worry, like for anybody. I mean, like I do this, right? Like a few episodes ago, we spoke about, you know, the Chinese gamers and the rules about that, and who's the company? Tencent were like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. Newverse were like, okay, we're pulling out of Marvel Snap, and thankfully the company behind Marvel Snap, Second Dinner, found another $100 million from a stateside company, so that game's safe. But like, yeah, when pull out the money out of your game, you're not getting that money back. There's no refunds, or very rarely there is some sort of refund. So yeah, I'm just worried about Apex and this stuff. But like you said, if for you, like it hasn't been a change, then that's great.
Yeah, no, I think Apex will last for a long time. That is always kind of a concern. And like you said, they do change things up from time to time, where if you get to like a certain game state and you're like, oh, I really enjoy this, and then they update, they change things, and then it's like, oh, okay, now that is gone. One thing that, like, for instance, Apex has had a lot of times is they have a lot of these events where they have special gameplay modes. For Christmas, I think it was last year, they did this thing where there was a train that would follow tracks around the map, and you do this kind of King of the Hill thing where if you were on the train, your team would get up points, and so you have to knock other teams off the train and then ride the train around, and of course they're always trying to get to on the train. So they did that, and it was super fun. It was a great mode, but it was a limited time, and then it's gone, and you can't play that mode anymore. This Final Fantasy VII mode sounds really cool. I haven't been able to play it yet. I'll be playing it tomorrow for sure, but again, once the 3 weeks are over, it's gone, and you can't play that mode anymore. So if you like that whole thing with the materia and all that, it's gone. They did a Revenant thing a couple weeks back that was kind of fun, where what you would do is half the players they could pick a character they wanted to play as, and the other half were these robot, basically minions. You know, you didn't have a lot of abilities, you couldn't use guns at all, but you would just keep respawning, and you had some special abilities like the ability to jump and whatnot. And so basically you have these group of it's zombie mode, but you get to play as the zombies, you know, your fast robotic zombies basically. And every time you annihilate a team, so, you know, everyone's on a team of 3. If you kill one guy, he's down, his guys can get him back up. But if you can kill all 3 people on that team, all 3 of them convert to your robot minions. So over time, the group of survivors dwindles down and gets smaller and smaller, and the robots come at you harder and harder in bigger waves, and you have to survive for an amount of time. And if you can reach extraction, it was a really fun mode. And it was really interesting, but now it's gone. You can't play that anymore. And I think with these live service games, it's disappointing that it has to be that way, but I do think it does have to be that way, because I think every time you add an exciting mode, and it is an interesting mode, you are kind of splitting your fan base a little bit. And if you add two, and then you can kind of split your fan base for a little bit, everyone's having fun, but then you get rid of it, everybody kind of goes back into the main battle royale mode. But then if you if you kept that in and then added a new content and add new content, you have eventually 5 different game modes, and your entire everyone's split across those 5 modes, and I think it just makes it harder for everyone to connect. So yeah, you can't please everyone all the time, as Noble Cooper says. I mean, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please everyone all the time. So yeah, but I do wish they would cycle out modes more often. I think that would be interesting if they just did kind of a thing where they, because a lot of times they only have the regular arena and they only have the battle royale, and then occasionally they'll add a third one. I would prefer it if they just had, the battle royale and the arena, and then always have a third one, but the third one cycled out. I think that would be, in my opinion, the best way to do it. But I don't know. They probably have analytics on this that show that's not the best way to do it.
You make an interesting point as well. I think that is sort of like the line in the sand for many games. It's like, okay, what modes do we add? What modes do we keep? If we keep this mode, that draws away from these main modes. And then if this player is playing and he can't find somebody to play with in this main mode, then he's like, okay, the new player experience is now disappeared into dust, right? And I think Hearthstone had this problem where they created a bunch of mods because, yes, this will draw in new players, and it did, but it didn't draw in enough to make it economically feasible, or where the people on the board are like, okay, this game is making money, but it's not making 2, 3, 4x on investment, which is what people expect in some cases, right? So, I mean, that's interesting with Apex, that they do cycle it out. I think lots of games do have that fine line in the sand. I think about Warframe as well. Warframe has 2 modes or 3 modes now, but the main mode is still the mode from 10 years ago. So that's an interesting thing to see. And then for the last story of today, we'll end off on this very quickly, is that Twitch is firing some people. And again, Unity fired some people. Unity termed it as a company reset, which is the worst terminology ever. And again, we're very sorry for anyone who has been let go. That's really terrible. At the company I work for, we went through 2 rounds of layoffs and 1 restructure, which is always unfortunate. We hate seeing people go, and in this environment, it's quite difficult to find a job. So I hope everyone lands on their feet. But this is really something, as tying back to what we're talking about, is like, I think a lot of companies are going to be sort of downsizing or like restructuring, or hate to say it, saying, hey, AI is going to do this role from now on, right? Like customer service, I'm very sure there'll be some company which figures out a way to let go of their customer service team or their QA team. I was reading an article about AI doing debugging for programs these days. That's something to take into consideration. But it's also like with Twitch as well, I think, as Adam and I were just talking about, it's like, what's the future of streaming, right? And going back to the article I referenced earlier in the show as well, which is like, streaming is not doing as well as standalone video on YouTube. YouTube is the second most visited site in the world, after Google.com, right? That's it, right? There's Twitch is not even in the top 10. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's TikTok. There is no Twitch. And again, Twitch has also become known with gaming. And again, there are loads of people in the world, like Adam's wife, like my partner, well, who don't play games. My partner plays games, so she does play every day. I will say that much. But she's definitely not going to be watching Roblox on stream anytime soon. So it's like, how do you get more people into streaming? How do you get more people into Twitch? And like Antoine is a big Twitch person. Like I never watch Twitch streams ever. He does it, and I don't understand why he does it. Like I could never watch a Twitch streamer. I do tune into Adam sometimes. I mean, just because it's Adam. If it wasn't Adam, I wouldn't watch it. Right? So it's I don't know what Adam's thoughts are on this. Like how do you make Twitch or live streaming a better model? YouTube live stream has been becoming more important. I know there's going to be a thing at work with YouTube live streaming at some point in the future. But again, it's on YouTube. It's not Twitch. So yeah, I know, Adam, for your final thoughts of the day, can live streaming be saved? Does it need to be saved?
Does it need to be saved? No. I don't think it does need to be saved. It's not an essential, it's not healthcare or, food. It doesn't need to be saved. I think it's one of those weird things where live streaming was originally, it's one of those weird things like Uber, for example. Uber was not supposed to be a business model. So Uber was supposed to be like, hey, here's this, lots of people, we're trying to save the environment or we're trying to save people money. How about we just make a simple place where people can say, hey, I'm going from A to B. Does anybody need a ride? Pitch in some money for gas and hey, let's carpool. And that's what it was. And then people turned it into a business model. And, and I think live streaming is kind of a similar thing where people were like, hey, there's this cool thing where if it used to be like when I was younger, I play a game and my brother watches me, or my brother plays a game and I watch him, and we can chat and talk about it, or, I'm playing with friends or whatever. We're swapping in and out. Hey, let's put that, let's create a very simple way for people to do this, but now they can connect with anybody, and it was about just kind of fun. It was a hobby. And now for people, it's become a career. And it's one of those things where like, yeah, is it an essential thing? No, it's a hobby that's turned into careers for some people. And, that's great that they're successful and all that. But, do we need it? Not really. I wish I could make more money off of it, obviously. But, I personally try to just approach it as a hobby, for me, like when I stream, it's great when I get people in the chat and I have a lot of fun. I love talking to people, but that's why I do it. It's just to hopefully get somebody in the chat, and it's like having a friend over and talking while you're gaming, and that's what it's about to me. Everything else is just icing on the cake. So yeah, I don't know. I have a bad business mind for that. Bad business mentality.
I have a question on that, right? Let's say, okay, you have a choice, right? It's again, you've done really well with short form and long form videos, this 2023, right? 2024. If you had a choice between making those kinds of videos or being like a person, again, a middle-aged gamer who streams 6 to 8 hours a day, live streaming, right? If you had to do live streaming, let's say 6 days a week, 6 to 8 hours, would you want to make videos or would you want to live stream as a living?
I guess it depends on the content, because live streaming is easier. It's a lot easier, a lot less prep work, right? It's a lot less, it's a lot less prep work. It's a lot easier on you. You don't have to put so much thought, like forward thought into it. You can kind of react in the moment. And I feel more comfortable reacting in the moment than planning things out. So, being able to respond to somebody like right now and explain something. So for me, that's the easier one. I feel like that would be the safer one. I love making the videos and the content because it's kind of like a puzzle, and it's kind of interesting. I'm like, oh, what can I get away with? Like, you probably didn't notice it, but on the Life by You, the most complicated thing in that Life by You video that I did was the part where I have a picture of Rod Humble, and then I have his Wikipedia page up, and then I shrink the Wikipedia page down. But it has to. What I did is I had a still picture of the Wikipedia page. I had to zoom in, but as I zoomed in, I had to move it down. And so, I had to set the camera to zoom. I had to set the entire frame to shift down when it zooms. And then what I do is I did that thing that you see sometimes in those like crime dramas where they like quote something and it like highlights something. And what I had to do that is I had to have 3 layers. I had to have the regular layer. I had to have a dimmed version of the layer. And then in between, I had to have a layer of just the highlighting of the text. So that way it would fade out and highlight text at the same time, because I could highlight text, but it wouldn't do the fade thing. So I had 3 layers of that, and that was all complicated. But I figured it out, and it was fun because that's like a puzzle. It's like, how can I do this and get this effect? And that's kind of a fun thing to do. And so I really do enjoy that part of it because it is like solving a puzzle. It's like doing a Sudoku in a way, it's that challenge. But at the same time, for me, I think from my biggest weakness on content is like, I'll be like, okay, I have an idea for doing something. I'll do it. And then I'll be like, okay. And then I have no ideas for my next piece of content. and then it's like, okay, I need to think of something. And I feel like if I was doing the video thing, I feel like I would just burn out on ideas really, really quickly, where I'm just like, I'm just starting to do kind of nothing content, just filler content, because I'm like, I don't feel inspired to do anything. Like when I did the Vita video, I felt inspired. I had something I wanted to do. I had something I wanted to say, and I made it. And I really thought I liked it. I liked the way it came out. Same thing when I did the review of Ghost of Tsushima. That was a game that I really, really enjoyed. And I really enjoyed making that. When I was doing the short for, just the short clips for Rain World and what was the other one? Dust Diver. You know, I have this idea of this is what I want to create. But like, you know, sometimes it's like, okay, I need to create content. I have nothing to say right now. Right. So yeah. So that's my problem, is running out of, if I had somebody that's saying like, I want you to make a video for this, and I had somebody that was like, make this video, make this video, make this video, then I have ideas, I could do it. But otherwise I think streaming would be the safer option for me.
Cool.
That's a long answer,
that's
but
a really good point. No. I mean, that's something we have to consider anyway. At some point in the future is the line between streaming and planned streaming as well. You know, like I've talked to Adam about this, like they say the best kind of live streaming is where you spend hours saying, this is what we're going to do today, this is what we're going to do tomorrow, and you plan everything out. And that's the strategy from the research I've done about live streaming. But that is another story for another day. Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Lots of great news, lots of great stories. Let us know, what was your favorite story? Don't forget to like, share, and retweet the videos that you like on our YouTube channel, on our Instagram. Don't forget to comment. You know, we've got lots of comments. I still need to go through and check our Middle Age Gaming channel and reply to some comments if Adam hasn't already done so.
Yeah. We have another comment here, though. Nuba Cooper saying, there's always the question of, if you're 40, how long do you want to stream? People always ask that. And some people will say, like, what else will I do when I retire? I have all this time, right? Just go on and stream.
No, that's totally true. And I would even say, you know, streaming used to be, going back 5 years ago, right? There was not a market for older streamers, but now there are a bunch of people doing gaming, people doing talk shows, people doing finance, people doing blockchain, people doing ETF stuff. It's honestly, it's crazy. Cool. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. Adam, any final words for today? Check Adam out. I guess Adam will be streaming Monster Menu for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. That game, as I said in the last one, needs a tutorial. Come on, guys, teach me how to do stuff. Don't just throw me in and be like, if you want to learn how to do anything, check the help menu. Don't do that.
Yes, I agree. Tutorials, and again, that goes back to another video we did with like things we want in 2024. Better goddamn tutorials, right? Especially for people with horrible memories like me. I know, Adam, you've said your memory isn't that great. Like
my short term's not that great. My long term memory is pretty good, but my short term memory is awful.
Yeah, me too. All right, thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget, check out the YouTube channel. Check out the YouTube channel for this full somewhat edited down version of this video, and then we will see you guys next week, Wednesday, same time, same place, for more news, more games, more stories. See you guys later.
Bye-bye.